Broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts, the Smart Cities podcast is the only podcast dedicated to all things smart cities. The podcast is the creation of ARC Advisory Group's Smart City practice. ARC advises leading companies, municipalities, and governments on technology trends and market dynamics that affect their business and quality of life in their cities. To engage further, please like and share our podcast or reach out directly on Twitter at Smart City Viewpoints or on our website at www.arcweb.com/industries/smart-cities.
Good afternoon and welcome to the ARC Smart City Podcast. I'm Larry O'Brien. I am Vice President of Research at ARC Advisory Group and also a member of the Smart Cities team. And this afternoon we have with us Sanjeet Pandit, who is Global Head of Smart Cities for Qualcomm Technologies. Good afternoon, Sanjeet. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. And good afternoon and good morning and good evening to everybody and all our listeners.
Yeah, and we have listeners all over the place, so I think that's very appropriate. So we're going to talk today about smart city technology and smart city platforms and lots of things that Qualcomm is doing within the smart city sector. And, you know, our whole concept at ARC is to talk about technology as an enabler. So I know we're going to talk a lot about that today. I was wondering, Sanjeet, if you could just give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do and what Qualcomm is doing in the smart city space.
Absolutely. My name, again, is Sanjeet Pandit. I'm the Global Head of Smart Cities and Smart Connected Spaces here at Qualcomm at our headquarters here in San Diego. Our business is broken into two areas. It's under the IoT business unit. And under the IoT business unit, we break the business into two areas, which I handle. That is smart cities and smart connected spaces. Smart cities, pretty self-explanatory. Cities come out with an RFP. We work with the cities, governments, agencies, municipalities to deploy technology to make it digitized in a way that it enables and eases the life of citizens. And we put in digitization across multiple aspects of a city operation. Smart connected spaces is much more interesting. Anything that falls outside the jurisdiction of a city, smart airports, smart ports, smart warehousing, smart transportation, anything related to smart campus, building surveillance, building energy management systems, anything and everything that requires digitization, sensor fusion, a sensory fabric that overlays everything and can be delivered as a service is what we term as smart connected spaces. I've been with Qualcomm many years now, and I've had multiple roles. Prior to kicking off the practice of smart cities and smart connected spaces, I was heading up the Asia Pacific sales and business development activities for the region. So that's who I am, and that's where our business is parked.
That sounds good, and I think I agree with you. The smart connected spaces in a lot of ways can be more interesting. We certainly follow that at ARC. So we're not just looking at, city functions and government functions, but all these different silos that really are part of a smart city, right? Whether it's building automation or energy management systems like you mentioned, or, anything from water treatment plants to the power infrastructure. I mean, there is a lot of different silos, I think, that cover, what we consider to be a smart city. And it's not necessarily just, the quote unquote city functions of things like parking and things like that. We've identified at least 9 different functional silos within smart cities. So the connected spaces part sounds interesting to me also. And hopefully we can get a little bit more into that. It's been kind of a strange time, for the smart city industry and business here, with COVID-19 and city budgets, kind of being adversely impacted and so forth. But at the same time, I think we've also seen kind of a resurgence, as far as the end users within the cities investing in digital transformation, because that's a very effective way to adapt and deal with the challenges that are posed by the pandemic right now. I'm wondering if you, Sanjeet, are seeing a resurgence of interest in smart cities and the overall smart city movement right now within Qualcomm. What's your take on sort of the pulse of this industry right now?
This is a this is an extremely, I would say, different time that we're living in. After something bad comes good, and I think this has been a time where technology adoption has taken off in multiple use cases. It's not just about smart cities, but mostly it is more of a use case solving, a rendered outcome based deployments. We are seeing a resurgence of cities trying to get more and more sustainable, cities adopting technologies which are much open approach. They want to make sure they're prepared for, God forbid, the next for pandemic. There has been a digital divide that has been very, very apparent during this difficult period that we all went through. Technology is now moving into spaces where people did not even imagine it would be there. And simple things like contactless payments, things that have really were not so apparent earlier and have now come to the surface, and how that has played a role. This, unfortunately, the catalyst has been the pandemic. And we are seeing not just influx of RFPs across cities, but also a demand for own private networks on private LTE, either CBRS or on 5G. And that has all happened because there has been suddenly the CIOs and the city managers and the organizations, may it be a space or a city, have realized that adoption of technology is extremely important. But we are not pushing technology at Qualcomm only for the sake of pushing technology. We are pushing technology so that we can solve a problem, a particular use case, and we can see a benefit out of that, increasing productivity, reducing the friction, taking the heavy lifting out of the equation. So that's how we are approaching this practice, and that is where we have cracked the code. And that we have seen a lot of companies, throw their hands up and exit the smart city space. And this is where we are doubling down and moving in.
I think that's good. We have seen some big companies kind of exit that space recently. I won't mention any names, but
Sure.
Yeah, it's challenging. But so you think the users kind of get this now? I mean, and we feel the same way. Technology is an enabler. You should never invest in technology just for the sake of technology. You really have to have some business outcomes in mind, and how are we going to use this technology to provide us with results, right? Whether those are you're measuring KPIs, or you're trying to reduce energy, or you're trying to reduce the spread of COVID. So you feel the end users kind of get this now? What are they viewing as some KPIs or some of the business outcomes that they're expecting from implementing these technologies in cities right now?
Well, I'm looking at your terminology of a user as an end user. Am I correct?
Yeah, we typically say end user. So that, that's a city or an owner operator, Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, I think most important is a rendered outcome-based deployment, where I'll give you a very simple example. Healthcare, remote patient monitoring, reducing the senior citizens to go to the hospital, reducing the carbon footprint, reducing the wait time, bringing the technology to their home with the IoT box, Internet of Medical Things box, having these devices connected via Bluetooth, and then having cellular connectivity back to the cloud, rendering the vital parameters that can be measured at home. The same things would have been measured when they go back to the clinic. That is a KPI. You're able to monitor the patient. You're able to get that information back to the doctor. The doctor would be able to see that. He's getting that telemetry, that reading, that vital parameter of a patient back from a variable. And he's doing that remotely because, you have to monitor the patients, and these are tough times, and you don't want these people to come out of the homes. And that was one area that took off. Hybrid learning, a fantastic use case. Mm-hmm. Reducing the digital divide, ensuring that, Qualcomm launched education as a service with a bunch of our partners like HoverCam and OneScreen, and we went in with a whiteboard, a digital whiteboard. We placed these whiteboards into teachers' homes. They replicated the classroom environment. Bring your own device, BYOD. We had those apps loaded. There was an integration with the learning management system, and this was up and running within no time. That was a KPI. So depending upon what section or what domain or vertical you intersect, the measurement is different. But yes, again, it has to be solving a particular use case with digitization. And that's exactly how you got to look at this. You have to identify the problem. You need to figure out how you need to digitize that. Use a sense of fusion fabric to ensure that happens. Get those APIs all integrated and render an outcome. So that's how it has been looked at, versus just pushing a technology so that, okay, so what? I mean, I cannot take a chipset or a silicon and go to a mayor and say, this chip will enable this. He's like, okay, great, but where is the end-to-end solution? Having the end-to-end solution has been the differentiator of Qualcomm with the ecosystem partnership that we bring.
Mm-hmm. Could you expand a little bit about that? What do you mean by an end-to-end solution?
You got to understand the problem, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
We bring all the hardware components, all the software components, stitch the entire complete solution and offer it right out of the box, right out of the gate, including the app, the usability, the logins, the analytics, the outcome, the dashboards, everything that can be plugged and played. I mean, look at it with, if I have to take an analogy, you could go to Home Depot and pick up 2x4s and cushions and cotton and fabric and make your own sofa, or you could go straight to Ethan Allen, pick up a sofa and bring it home and you're ready to go. So consider us as the Ethan Allen, the high end. We bring in everything out of the box and ready to sit on it.
Yeah, I think that's important too, because a lot of the solutions I see out there do require a pretty significant degree of integrating things together.
Exactly.
Yeah, integration. I mean, I covered process automation, refineries and chemical plants for years. And I mean, the integration problem was huge there, and you can spend a lot of money integrating stuff together in a long time, getting the project together. So,
and I think where we played a role, we acted as the virtual CTO. We acted as the force behind this, where we are solving the high value use case by taking the complexity out of the equation. And we brought the ease of ensuring that we have all that things taken care of up front, so that we just bring the final solution to the party. And that was where I think multiple companies did not crack that code. And we are first to this. And again, if we're first, Larry, we're first. It's somebody else's job to come back and say they're better. It's not my job.
Right. No, I think that's good. And you gave the example of healthcare, and you gave an example of education. Do you have some concrete examples of cities that are deploying these technologies and rolling them out right now? Any of these other use cases for specific cities that you could share with us?
Sure. I mean, look, right now we're working internationally with Vietnam. We're working a lot with Thailand. We're working with Mexico. We're working in U.S. with multiple cities. Cities are coming to us with private LTE networks. A city may not roll out healthcare because that may not be under their jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. But what we are looking at is, as I said, multiple spaces within the city. The city may come out with an RFP for water, lighting, road, traffic, which is under their jurisdiction, and with a private LTE network. We had multiple mayors from, say, New Orleans, Miami, others speak at our Smart Cities Accelerate conference that we had in December, virtually, of course. Hopefully this year we'll have it on campus in person. And every city that we are talking to right now is asking us ways of ensuring that they can bring the technology right in the hands of the end user, as you mentioned, in the most minimal, I would say, shortest path and least path of resistance. And that's where we take the complexity out of the equation. So we're working right now with a few hospitals. I cannot name them, but a few hospitals where we are working on a very robust remote patient monitoring system with which can be delivered to an age group and above, so that they don't have to worry about any of the visits, plus telemedicine, and having a conference call maybe every 90 days, video call with their caregiver, a son, daughter, anybody else, with the doctor remotely, which was never done before. And people are starting adopting to that. So all this has come up to the surface. It wasn't that it wasn't there before. It's just getting accepted and embraced much rapidly as compared to earlier.
Yeah, I agree. You said something interesting earlier, that most cities will come to you with an RFP for a specific area functionality.
That's correct.
Do you see more cities coming at you with RFPs that want to cover multiple areas of functionality and integrating these areas together? Because as the lead analyst that covers smart city platforms at ARC, I mean, that's one of the big value propositions of smart city platforms is they can tie together, multiple silos of functionality into a single environment and have a single methodology for managing all the data from all these different sources and presenting this in a common environment, so you get a holistic view of what's going on within all these different silos. So you see everything that's going on. Is this something that you're seeing with the end users now also, or are they still coming at you with specific, I want this area functionality, I don't want a big integrated solution?
One thing we have seen is the amalgamation of multiple divisions, a lot of cooperation between the cities, fire talking to water, water talking to education, education talking to roads.
Mm-hmm.
The silos have been broken down. The boundaries are really porous now within the organizations. The holistic approach has taken the front seat. Our platform that we have with Zyter, the Zyter platform, is a multi-tenant, Kubernetes based, can take every single vertical into place, right from video analytics to traffic to parking to water to building. And we have a command and control center that we have implemented here in the Qualcomm campus, which is not a demo. It's a live command and control center, a city command and control center that we have multiple cities that come in and have looked at what we have done. They want the same thing back. They want their existing, you have to understand there are legacy systems out there. You cannot just get rid of those.
Oh, I know. Lots of legacy systems.
That is a wrong, that you're starting on a wrong foot if you go and tell them to replace that. You got to make sure that those are integrated into your newer technologies. You got to make sure you take those things into, because they've invested money, that's public money. And we got to take that into consideration. We implement those things into the equation, and we are utilizing what they have in terms of assets until they expire or until they run out of their life. And at the same time, we are bringing in new technology and embracing what they have and ensuring we are giving them a complete holistic approach across multiple departments. And the key is not only giving them data. The key is to have actionable, preemptive and also predictive and also, some prophylactic actions in terms of what do you do with that data. Okay, you see a manhole, cover open on the road. Then what? What happens after that? Does a camera pick it up with AI automatically? Great. Then what happens? So the output of that has to be an actionable closure of an line item. So that, I think those aspects across multiple departments and a holistic view, integrating security, surveillance, fire, safety, citizen enablement, including things like paying bills, everything, all that is coming together. So we are seeing a lot more of that all round and all encompassing kind of RFPs coming our way.
That's good. Yeah, there's a ton of data out there, but turning that into useful information, like you said, is another thing, right? I mean, data is not a problem. We have lots of that.
Yep.
But turning that into information that allows you to make a decision, that's the key thing. Let's talk a little bit about digital twins.
Sure.
So this is something we've talked a lot about at ARC in our recent forum and so forth, and digital twins, which are basically a digital representation of something that exists in the physical world, whether that's a building or, an actual city block with multiple buildings or a piece of machinery. Can you tell us a little bit about what Qualcomm is doing with digital twins? Do you feel that the digital twin is a necessary step for smart cities and spaces? What's Qualcomm doing in terms of digital twins, and what's the value to the end user and the owner operator?
Sure, absolutely. Very good question. We have created a digital twin of our campus here. We have taken the digital twin to a point that it's a physical asset converted into a digital asset with POI, points of interest, cameras, sensor fusion, implementing various social media tweets, all this. And it's considered this as, I would say, a Google indoors Earth or a Google streets of indoors, where you can walk through, navigate through a digital twin. Now, implementation of a digital twin of a city, I would say a complete entire city is a huge task. A particular area, take the case of the Hollywood zone, or the Walk of Fame, or any particular Embarcadero, or any Broadway walk, or anything of that sort, or maybe Times Square, and then having that replicated, or a stadium, a digital twin of a stadium, where you're having an experience of the stadium, not being in the stadium, at the same time seeing your fans with a live feed. Those things are taking a lot of momentum. We're getting a lot of traction around that. So, most of the digital twin implementations that we have been asked, or what we have delivered, are in terms of smart buildings and smart campuses, with respect to HVAC, power, building energy management systems, cameras, wayfinding, those kind of applications. As far as cities are concerned, is that the only where they want to put the money in? I don't think so right now. That's a good to have, not a must to have. In case of a campus in a building, that's a very, very must to have, so that you can overlay your piping, your electricity, your power, your cabling, your Ethernet, all that into that. So under a controlled space, a controlled environment, it's a very, very feasible and deployable aspect. A full citywide stuff at this point, it's a little bit of a pricey equation as compared to some of the other priorities. Not that it cannot be done. It's absolutely very useful, like in countries like Singapore or Taiwan, which are fairly easier size to kind of manage. A city country by itself, they have implemented that, and there's nothing wrong with that. The key is about priority, and also where do you want to utilize the money.
Okay, well, let's talk about your smart campus deployment. You mentioned digital twins. How would I deploy a digital twin on a smart campus, and what would that do for me?
Well, there are two ways to go around it, right? You could take a CAD diagrams, CAD drawings, and do it the traditional way, or you would do it, how we have done it with our partner Navis, in which it is a 360 camera and a LiDAR, stitched together, and we can scan an entire campus in a day, depending upon the size, and it's a head-mounted, shoulder-mounted camera that a person walks around as you will walk. It takes a 360-degree view and stitches that along with LiDAR, and we get a complete stitched image of that particular physical asset into a digital twin. And then you can use that on an interactive basis by putting points of interest and having camera feeds, as long as you can give the HTTPS or RTSP feed on the camera through your VMS. And that's how we have done it. We'll be more than happy to kind of do a live demo to anybody, any of the listeners, or any of the ARC customers who are interested to see how we have implemented a smart city environment within a campus. By the way, our campus and the spread is pretty wide enough. We have 40 plus buildings and shuttles to within the campuses and cafeterias and everything. So to replicate a smart city environment with lighting, tracking, asset tracking, shuttles, smart transportation, bus stops, all this intelligence was necessary. There's only so much you can do with PowerPoint, Larry. You got to make sure you deploy it and show where how things are done.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do too. I mean, to me, the use cases are the biggest challenge right now when we talk about smart city platforms and deploying advanced, IoT technologies in cities. Is that there just aren't a lot of good use cases out there. So we're really trying to promote specific use cases and case studies, so people can get educated about what's out there and what other people are doing. So to me, that's the big thing right now, right? There's all this technology and people know it can do stuff for them, but they don't know, specifically, how would this work, in my city or my application. So getting those use cases out there is really, really important. So I don't know if you have any more you want to talk about on this podcast, but if you have other use cases, we should definitely talk about.
Yeah, I think
get the word out there.
Yeah, I think one aspect that I would like to highlight here is with the implementation of 5G coming along, there will be a lot of low latency, high reliability, first respondent, time sensitive use cases that will evolve. And I think with automation, with automotive area, with 5G, and also a combination of LiDAR with some of the cameras coming through for fire detection, and also maybe a camera at the street light, which would automatically pick a fatal crash at 2 a.m. in the morning and automatically inform that to the 911 rather than waiting for somebody to call if both parties are in a fatal accident. Those kind of use cases, you will see a lot of vision intelligence coupled with AI and 5G combined, which I would, love to term as AIoT, artificial intelligence combined with IoT, and with a 5G deployment, having that kind of speeds will be a game changer. And as I said, AI today you think if AI today is something that's happening, wait for another 5 years, and with the combination of 5G and with AI, it's going to change the way we're looking at smart cities in general.
Yeah, I like that example of AI because I don't think there's enough very practical examples of how AI can be deployed in operating environments right now. There's a lot of hype around it. So I always like to hear, here's a concrete example of how we're using AI to actually derive a result.
Yep.
And I agree with what you're saying about 5G too. I mean, that 5G is, we're already seeing a lot of growth in privately deployed 5G networks. Especially what you said about CCTV and video analytics, right? So I think we have this kind of convergence of pretty powerful edge processing right now, right? CCTV cameras, IoT-enabled cameras, and a lot of this stuff is converging. I think CCTV and video analytics is going to be huge. When you combine that with edge processing and 5G, there's a whole bunch of different applications out there that you could use video analytics for. So I agree with you there too. I think we're going to see a lot of growth there, and we are predicting that growth in our market forecast reports too. So that's going to be a huge area.
One very unique use case I would like to mention is I'm sorry I can only mention the use case. I don't want to take the thunder away when they launched from who and how.
Okay.
Visually impaired people, citizens crossing a zebra crossing, and it's given 12 seconds on the crosswalk. The camera picks up the cane and realizes this is a visually impaired senior citizen, wheelchair, any of these. Based on that, automatically increases the time to 18 seconds, 22 seconds, and allows the person to cross the road, ensuring proper traffic monitoring. That is something else.
Yeah, another good use case.
So this is real life. I mean, this is how AI is going to come in. It's easy to just show this on a PowerPoint and you can do this and that, but implementation for solving a problem is where it matters.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great example too. What kind of advice would you offer an end user, whether that's a city or a campus that's thinking about deploying some of this technology? I know, it can be kind of overwhelming.
Sure.
Any good bits of advice for the end users out there that are thinking about starting a project, as far as how to approach the project successfully? What kind of stuff, should they look at first? How to scale the implementation? I think for a lot of people, it's very overwhelming, when you start talking about some of these projects and they start thinking this is going to be, a big complex project and I'm going to have to do all this planning and, what can we do to make stuff easier and kind of boil it down for people?
I think I'm tempted to say, call me. No.
Yeah, call me.
No, I think the way I'm going to say, put this is very simple. You need a virtual CTO. You need a virtual CIO. And Qualcomm as a technology provider, at the end of the day, our job is not just pushing in a technology just for the sake of pushing it. As I said, there is a very structured approach in deploying smart cities or smart connected spaces or digitizing any particular workspace or any particular domain. May it be agriculture, may it be poultry farming, may it be even, smart wineries for the sake of it. So unless you understand your physical workflow, your workflow in general, and how you want to digitize it, how you want to make it easier, you have to sit down. It's like really renovating your home, renovating your kitchen. You figure out what you want to do. You bring in a designer. I didn't like that. I didn't like this. You hire a general contractor. In this case, the analogy would be working with Qualcomm to kind of get all that stuff done. making sure you bring in the right smarts, which is, I would say, the subcontractors, ensuring that all that is orchestrated in the right way, and you have a rendered outcome. So, I've kind of oversimplified it, but I think that at the end of the day, there is a process to it. And, it's not as, it sounds surely overwhelming, no doubt about it, especially when you have legacy systems and you're like, well, we got all this. I know it's kind of outdated. What do you want to do with this? So, that's where the real, there's a fine line between implementing newer technology and at the same time discarding or not using your older technology. So it's kind of a process, and we have kind of mastered that art. And as I said, you have to understand what your workflow is and figure out what exactly you need to do, bucketize it, and then address it one bucket at a time. Good
advice. Well, you also have a Smart Cities Accelerator program too that I see here. Do you care to mention anything about that?
Oh, absolutely. When I pretty much kicked off this practice at Qualcomm, and we realized that it is too fragmented. We got to make sure we do something, and as usual, we were first. We brought the entire ecosystem together: cities, municipalities, bucket truck owners, people who installers, system integrators, solution providers, module providers, people who buy our chips and make modules, everybody. And we created a Smart City Accelerator program. Consider this Smart City Accelerator program as the Match.com of smart cities. And it has really taken off. We are close to 500 plus members now. And this pretty much is who's who in the zoo, and, adding every day. And, you have somebody who can give you a 2x4 in a Home Depot, or somebody who could give you a complete moving truck to move that sofa from Ethan Allen to get it to your house. So a module, a chipset, to a final end-to-end solution, to a complete command and control center, to a platform. We have everybody on there.
Excellent. And you also have an IoT services suite too. We haven't talked much about your platform. We've kind of talked about
sure.
use cases and the value, which is most important. But I want you to mention a little bit about the platform too. So tell us a few words about that. Sure.
The IoT services suite is primarily a complete offering of an end-to-end solution. And what we have done is we have taken all the key verticals. Obviously, we have the smart city deployments that we can go in for, but then we have taken each vertical and digitized it for a full out-of-the-box experience. Healthcare as a service, education as a service, construction management as a service, smart warehousing, smart logistics, smart senior citizen care, or maybe smart transportation. And this is a part of the Qualcomm IoT services suite, where we offer it as a full end-to-end package as a solution that can be deployed with a minimal configuration. The platform, as I said, is multi-tenant and containerized, can be either on a cloud or a prem. And that dashboarding, the apps, the analytics, all that is, I would say, all done. The integration of the right products, functionalities, use cases is all done for every vertical, and we offer it as a full suite for people to deploy.
And pre-configured dashboards and graphics and things like that too, I would assume, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, good. And where would we go to get more information about what Qualcomm is doing? Let's kind of close this out with some resources for people. It's always good to get resources out there, and I'll share some of ARC's resources too, but
you can go to our website. You could just type Qualcomm Smart City Accelerator Program. You can type Qualcomm IoT Services Suite in any of your browsers, and you'll get there. But the website is the Qualcomm.com website. Navigation portion would be the best place to start. You can always reach out to any of us through that website and that particular landing page, and we'll be more than happy to kind of work you through and demo something for any end user who's listening to the podcast. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I think we're probably getting near the end here, Sanjeet. I want to thank you very much for participating with us today. This has been a great description of what Qualcomm can do for end users in the smart city space. And I think we've had some really good advice on how to approach projects and what the actual value proposition is of this technology and some really good use cases. So again, I want to thank you for joining us today. It was a really great discussion and hopefully not our last discussion here. If you want more resources from ARC, you can go to www.arcweb.com, arcweb.com, and go under our areas of expertise and look at what we have for smart cities as well. But once again, Sanjeet, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. This has been a great discussion, and I hope we can continue it at some point in the future.
Thank you so much. The pleasure was all mine, and good luck to all the listeners. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. This has been the ARC Smart Cities podcast. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
Broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts, the Smart Cities podcast is the only podcast dedicated to all things smart cities. The podcast is the creation of ARC Advisory Group's Smart City practice. ARC advises leading companies, municipalities, and governments on technology trends and market dynamics that affect their business and quality of life in their cities. To engage further, please like and share our podcast or reach out directly on Twitter at Smart City Viewpoints or on our website at www.arcweb.com/industries/smart-cities.